Welcome to the Think Fitness Life podcast, Mindset, Exercise, Nutrition. We are three personal trainers and health coaches dedicated in providing information in these realms to promote critical thinking and assist you in your life practice. My name is Matt Gluckman, and usually with me are my co-hosts Eric Menchie and Mike Urso. But today we have a special episode, but going further, we like to explore topics related to mindset, exercise, nutrition. We look into psychology, the science, behavior, and how it can shape your fitness lifestyle. And today we're going to dive into sex, health, and how it's related to your personal life and your longevity. And with me is Dr. Carrie O'Neill. She has a PhD in human sexuality, and she's a sexual empowerment coach. And I'm honored to be sitting here with you today. Welcome to the podcast. How you doing?
I'm doing great, Matthew. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no, it was a pleasure. And when I looked up kind of experts in this field, your name just rang true right off the bat because one, you had the PhD, and then after further talking with you, you said that you had 300 pages, I believe.
Yes, thank you. My dissertation that I concluded as a PhD candidate is all about sexual well-being, optimal sexual well-being, regardless of your age, your gender, your cultural background, and even your proclivities over a lifetime. Yeah. What are the elements that, regardless of who you are or what may have happened to you or the way you were raised, what are the elements that make sex worth wanting to have over a lifetime? And I broke that down, and there's 300 edited pages on file at the Library of Congress.
And they're not just pictures, they're actually words in there.
It is a very dry academic review of a very juicy topic.
But hey, I think that's really important. I think too many people who even can discuss this topic in terms of health can really only get to it on a surface level. So I think it's really great to have someone with your background and your expertise. So again, I appreciate having you on the show. And I just want to hop right into it and ask you what motivates and drives you to want to help people with their sex life and their health.
Health, nutrition, sex, power, I think they're all from the same category, and I think they drive you for sure. You're right about that. I think being able to tap into your sexuality is like having a bank account that is completely flush with cash, but you don't have the PIN number. It's got your name on it, but without the PIN number, you cannot access it. And that I think has been a great deal of people's background, regardless of where they're at in the world, and even historically, right? Mm-hmm. Why? We'll get to that in a little bit, but why did I choose to do it? Because I'm a very capable person. I definitely had, prior to being a PhD in human sexuality, I have a Bachelor of Science in Mechanical Engineering.
Oh, wow.
I was an overachiever. I had a lot of the accoutrements of life that said you have it together, but I could not make it rock in the bedroom.
You couldn't tap into your bank account. You didn't have that PIN number yet.
Exactly. And it's not because I hadn't achieved a lot of things in my life. I could do it, but I didn't know how. I had a partner. I think we both wanted to figure it out. Both of us high achievers, both of us by the look of life had it all. Yeah. But it was a very sad state. It was a lonely state of affairs once the bedroom door closed and we were in our own places and we couldn't figure out how to connect, how to connect consciously and consistently and meaningfully. Right. And ultimately it ended in a sexless marriage over a very long time that ended in divorce. Yeah. And if I had an axe to grind, which is exactly why I got that PhD, I wanted to figure out the elements, because I know that if I knew what the elements were and I could play it like a piano, or like the engineer that I am, I knew I could create a healthy sexual expression regardless of the circumstances in my life. And so I set out to do that. And I actually used the model that I developed as a PhD in session with my clients.
Awesome. I love how your kind of experience shaped you to, look internally and fix it in like an intrinsic level, not just like look for, what pornographic material could I buy, or what outfits could I buy, or what, whatever, right? You didn't look externally for the solution. You looked within. I think that's huge. I think that plays to our audience, because I think a lot of people want to empower themselves and feel like there is an answer and there is a solution for everybody out there. And it might be different for each individual, but I think it's important to, your story alone is enough to portray to people that, there is a way. There is absolutely a way.
Oh, even more to the point, Matthew, what you don't know, I've spent most of my life feeling broken. That is why I became an overachiever. As a child, I was sexually abused. I've spent my whole life feeling broken and less than. And so I overcompensated so no one would recognize where I came from. So what I do now is the culmination of lifelong searching for answers.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is very deep. And there's a lot of things I want to pick apart in that sentence, but I'm gonna keep it on topic for today for what we were going to talk about. Why do you think sex isn't talked about in terms of health, or even just in a public forum?
Well, I actually think that sex is talked about quite a lot in public forums, but none of them are in the open, right?
Okay,
Mostly on the down low.
Right.
You got girlfriends talking to girlfriends, you got guys talking to guys, but maybe the right people aren't talking to each other, right? Why it's not talked openly? Why isn't it on the food pyramid as a healthy part of life? Right?
Yeah, right. Should be the foundation.
You know what? My answer to that is because sex is powerful. Because sex is powerful, sex is polarizing. Back in the day, once we became civilized communities, the community leaders wanted to own sex because it was all about paternity. It became, hey, I don't want to not know where this son is coming from because I need this son to stand on my ground. I want to pass my items to him, my son or daughter, and I want to know what paternity is about. That was back when we quit being nomads. Then came societies, organized societies, and religion stepped in as a way to control the behavior and the ways communities regulated themselves and who's taking care of the kids and who's got control. And then long about the 1940s, the scientists took over sex. Enter Kinsey, and on the heels of that, Masters and Johnson. And when science began to own sex, we started to look at each other saying, am I normal? First of all, let us not say that Kinsey blew our mind by letting us know what people were actually doing in their bedrooms, but then Masters and Johnson broke it down about what is an orgasm, who is and isn't having them, what you should and shouldn't be doing. And so for a very long time, it's been owned by science. So that's kind of a long answer. The short answer.
No, it's great. I love the history of it. I learned a lot just now.
Thank you. But I'll tell you, the short answer is, it's a hotbed topic. It polarizes people. It's been taboo forever. And so people do not want to speak about it, right? It's tough to talk about it. There's a lot of things going on in our legal system with orientations and rights and marriages and who can and can't. And those are fighting words, just like abortion was back in the day.
Right.
So...
And I feel like what you're just saying, kind of the history of who really owned and dictated sexual information for its time in its time period. It almost sounds like a lot of that is still some of the underlying principles are still around today. I mean, talking about paternal, and I feel like even me at 2008 graduating high school, like it was pretty accepted that like a male should have a healthy active sex life, but a female should be more reclused and should be more selective. And that's transcends into today from even way back into the foundation when it was first, I guess, publicly informed to other people. So it's interesting to hear the history of it and kind of where we sit today.
I just want to say, and then we'll move on.
Yeah.
You actually just put two things together. There's the politics of sex, and then there's actually hormones and natural selection and the way females' brains are wired. We actually are the ones creating the fetus, and so we want to pick
the best genes.
You got it.
Right.
So it is our nature to want to select and be selective. And where do those mix, and where is it okay? Where is it not okay?
It's interesting to say that, because actually Jordan Peterson talks about that in Hierarchies, and he talks about how, if it was set up that the best male mated with all the females, that we wouldn't have, like, there wouldn't be this coexistence of multiple relationships out there, right? There might be like one male who's dominant, right, and impregnating all these females, and they see him as like the master gene pool. So it's interesting that you bring that up and make that key distinction, because I think there are a lot of deep instinctual primal attributes that we don't necessarily care to admit, I feel.
Well, okay, now we're getting into some deep water. I know.
And it might be for later down the line, yeah.
Yeah.
But it is really interesting, because you're right. I mean, there's a clear distinction. There's definitely like a political side of things, and there's definitely just sort of cultural? Like a cultural, primal, animalistic side of things.
You got it.
For sure. What do you find is kind of the most common misconception around sexual health? Or maybe what do you find is frustrating to you when you keep having the same reoccurring questions from maybe like a new person that comes to see you?
Frustrating to me. I'm not sure if I'm ever really frustrated. People say they want to change, and then they realize how hard it is to change. And that doesn't even frustrate me. People will go at the pace they go. But I did like your first question. What is the biggest misconception around sexual health? That is a great question.
All right. Let it rip.
I think the biggest misconception around sexual health is that you can do without it.
Ooh, that is good.
Yeah. What's the first thing that gets taken off the table for the couple that has a baby or a busy schedule?
Sex.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right. What's the first thing that gets taken off the table as you're a young person and you're looking at however you're oriented to the other person, and you're getting ignited with these young hormones and all of these things and all of that, and you want to express yourself? First thing that gets slapped down is no, don't, stop. As the theory right now, more and more men, their testosterone levels are dropping.
Ooh,
Millennials.
That's a great point.
Do you want to know the category that's having the least amount of sex?
Millennials.
The youngest of people. Criminy sake, it was you guys.
Well, we have a population issue anyway, so this is perfect. No, I'm just kidding.
So you know what? I don't know that that's true anymore.
Yeah, that's very interesting. I'm glad you said that, because we did talk briefly before we started about how since the 80s, and there's a great podcast on epigenetics by Dr. Jay Anthony, and he talks about, and he references how our testosterone culturally has dropped since the 80s, like plummeted. So that's a very great point, and I appreciate you making me not naive anymore.
But you know what? I actually do want to just ground that in a little bit. It's one of the very first things that get taken off the table when within couples. Okay, so let's just assume that you found someone that you enjoy being with. Good, you feel safe. Going to a movie, sharing your feelings, sharing the water bill. Okay, awesome. You may have even felt safe sharing your body, but something might have happened beyond busy schedule, and it is the first thing that gets taken off the table. So the misconception is that that's okay.
Right. The misconception is that it's okay to recluse from sex, and I think part of that could be kind of like what you were talking about with your personal experience, and I've been in that same boat, being just out of a relationship for 3 years and ending in that sort of fashion where the sex life and connection was almost frustrating, and it got worse and worse. And where's the positive feedback loop? Where's the positive reinforcement to want to keep engaging and keep trying? So I think maybe that plays a role into people's ease of cutting it out, if that makes sense. Like they're not getting that complete fulfillment. They're not able to tap into that bank account, so that when their life gets so crazy and hectic, it's almost like work and effort versus it being just kind of natural and fun and instinctual and just a good connection.
Oh, I couldn't agree more.
Okay.
It's work and effort. Why? Because when you have sexual exchange, I'll just say that, whether you're touching somebody, caressing their hand in a movie, or naked and genital exchange and sharing, it's vulnerable. So here we are in the world, and we're very busy and we're very task oriented, and we have to get our thing done. And then there's the other thing, and then there's the other thing. Whoa, to slow down and to sink into your own body, and then to connect with the body and emotions and temperament and tempo with another person.
It's exposing.
Oh, it's exposing. It's vulnerable. And when you are 99% of the time or 100% of the time in another world, you got your brain, you got what you need.
Kids, responsibility, whatever, right?
It feels like climbing Kilimanjaro, and nobody wants to do that. But anyway, if I have anything to say, I want to say it is as important as getting 7 to 8 hours of rest a night. It is as important as staying hydrated. It's a piece of your life force that is available to you. So don't forget it.
I completely agree.
Don't take it off.
I completely agree. And that's why you're here, because I think it's such a under-discussed topic. And I think people need to get the right information, and they need to get the facts, and they need to, not everybody's going to have the same right path to find the answer for them, but they need to start asking the questions and maybe looking internally and maybe talking with their spouses and maybe addressing some of this stuff, because it's funny to me how a lot of stresses in life can go away when you have a healthy, active sex life. The hierarchy of needs. We talked about it before.
Matthew, it is what the Viagra and Cialis commercials are made of. Yeah, right.
That's why they're in business, right?
Well, if you look at that commercial, those commercials, and you see these couples and this man walking down the street like he's in command of his domain. Yeah,
you're right. It feels like you're on top of the world, for sure, or cloud nine, whatever you want to call it. So that's perfect. That leads me into my next question, which was, what happens with someone, maybe with your research or just with your clients, what happens, what you see with that individual when they have no sex life at all?
I could give you an armload of scientific studies.
Do it.
Anybody can Google them. But what I'd like to say is, think about what you see in the world. You know this to be true. How about the widow who, when the spouse died, they didn't date, they didn't interact. They get angry, crotchety, sour, right? Bringing it further in, stress. Maybe you have a partner that you want to engage sexually and they do not. So surely anger, resentment begins to build.
Right.
Your immune system can go down. because you're not building those hormonal synapses and that vibrancy. So hormone systems reduce. And how about body disassociation? When you say no to sex, there is at some point that you begin to turn off your sexual stirrings, right? No, don't feel that way. No, don't think about that. No, 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 no. And the next thing you know, you're disassociated from that part of your body. Have you ever heard use it or lose it?
Okay.
Right? For women, vaginismus, that is a pelvic floor health muscle. Vaginismus is real. People say old women, it's clamped shut. I don't mean to sound crass, but vaginismus is the technical term for that. Okay. And women who have not engaged sexually for quite a length of time or trauma, there's all kinds of things. I'm just touching on it. That is real. Erectile dysfunction for the man who chased his erections away. Pretty soon, your body's like,
why are we going to keep going?
Screw you. You know what? We're not going there. So, pelvic floor health, that's another one. Kegels, right? The action of closing or bearing down on that pelvic floor, it occurs when you engage sexually. If you're not engaging sexually, your pelvic floor health stands to weaken for sure. So the whole mind-body connection is at risk. Your immune system is at risk. And then what secondary happens? Depression, lack of desire. When you tell yourself, no, 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 your body shuts down to desire. So now you're moving that watermark for even wanting to have desire.
To get the dopamine response in your own system to feel joy just looking at something.
Exactly. And the next thing you know, you'd rather eat that bowl of ice cream than go upstairs before your spouse goes to sleep, right? You'd rather watch another Netflix.
Because that gave you more joy because you shut down your system, essentially.
Exactly.
So does this play a role into the somatic sensory nervous system as well? Remember, what was the touch? I
said parasympathetic nervous system.
Was that what it was? Okay, I thought there was another nervous system that is about our touch.
Parasympathetic.
That's parasympathetic?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's like a relaxed state. Yeah.
Oh man, the parasympathetic nervous system trumps all of them. And
Menchie, or one of the guys on our podcast, he's going to love hearing that term. we used to train and he'd be like, I'm about to get parasympathetic. Like with the way that we would train in different aerobic zones and not turn on our sympathetic system on purpose. So, yeah.
Yeah, right on. It trumps them all. It's super healthy for your neural system. Now I'm giving a lot of big words, but here's the point.
I love it.
Here's the point about when there's no sex. The first thing that happens between couples when there's a disconnect of some sort or another is they quit touching each other. Touch will go away. Touch with your clothes on, non-sexual touch. Touch is so important. Of course, it communicates to the other person any number of things, but at its very bare bones, it is additive to your parasympathetic nervous system. This is the kind of thing that we feel with service pets. This is why we have one of the reasons we have service pets and why they bring pets into retirement living homes, right? Yeah. They want you to pet that cat or dog because you are getting feedback for yourself. Yeah. You're actually, in a way,
electrons interacting.
Touch. And if that pet might look at you in the eyes, even bonus, because now you're building oxytocin, right? You and I are looking at each other in the eye, oxytocin building. All of that is very helpful. But I just want to go back to touch.
Yeah.
I have a client in my practice right now dying on the vine because of his sexless marriage that he is in. Only a matter of time before that person will go out and find touch of one type or another. So a very simple thing that, in case any of your listeners are in this boat, rather than be in a place of non-touch, non-connection, non, a very simple thing that you can try to do while you sort out your relationship where it's at is to get some touch in. Man, 10 to 12 hugs a day. Seriously.
No, I like that prescription. Seriously, because I'm all about, like, when weight training, it's like we're doing 3 sets of 10. So I love it.
Oh,
10 to 12 hugs a day. That's the modality, right? Monday through Friday, 10 to 12 hugs a day. That's great. Yeah.
Dr. O'Neill.
Yeah, right, exactly.
It's huge. I have danced. I'm a dancer myself. A lead follow. I'm a Westie. In case any Westies are out there. West Coast swing. But I'll tell you, even that type of touch, it's non-sexual. It's very technical, but you touch and you get a result. That is extremely helpful for the person in a sexless marriage or not having sex. Petting, we already said the animals, holding the babies at the neonatal nursery that need that. Doctors know this. That's why they have legions of people rocking and holding babies out of the incubator, because it's big.
Yeah, we weren't meant to live alone by ourselves in the woods, recluse, running away from other people, and it definitely goes a long way. I mean, a couple things that I want to touch on from your answers there was one of them back to when we were talking about no sex and suppressing sex. I think, honestly, I mean, I'm not trying to get too political here, but it's like one thing I look at is like the Catholic Church. I mean, these people were told that they can't have sex with a woman all their life, and then they go and make these acts, and it's like tension creates more tension. So that no. I mean, I'm not justifying any of their behavior, but I just feel like that's more than just a couple cases. You know what I mean? That's pretty ridiculous. So I'm just bringing that up as to kind of the other detrimental things that can happen when you almost suppress your animalistic desires and needs, and not having sex and saying no to sex, right?
I agree.
And then one of the other things too about touch and its importance in someone's health. I've looked at like kind of like blue zones, like areas where people live the longest, right? And longevity, centenarians, people who live over to 100. Oh. And a lot of the commonalities in diet were pretty much the same, like Mediterranean diet, lots of vegetables, olive oil, fish, But it was interesting looking at some of the articles and information out there that they were all really adamant about explaining that they're all involved in their community some way, out and about, and getting that human interaction, getting that oxytocin that you're talking about, that eye-to-eye contact. And I'm sure there's non-sexual touch in that as well. And I just think it is, and I'm so happy again that I can't explain how happy I am to have an expert like you in this realm, because I just think it's such an under-discussed topic. And maybe you have this frustration where you see all your clients' bank accounts and you're like, I can get you that PIN. I know how you can get that bank account. And I see it too with some of my clients. Unfortunately, I don't have the confidence to say I can get you that PIN, but it's like I can get you the information so that you can get the ball rolling and find the PIN. So just excited to have you on board again. So just want to mention that.
Thank you.
Yeah. So we said what happens with no sex. So let's, do you have an ideal person, or could you describe someone who you would say we could deem as a healthy or adequate sex life?
Sure. I think the healthiest person is someone who is sensitive to their needs, right? Someone who's listening to their...
Aware.
Right, aware and responsive to what they need. So being sensitive and aware, and the kind of the sub bullets under that would be, right, you know what you want and you know what you don't want. But the trap door on that is, how do I know what I want and I don't want? So here's the other healthy piece. Stay curious. Absolutely stay curious.
I love it.
Not just about yourself. Like, wow, I saw that and I had some thoughts about that. What's up with that, right?
What's going on over there?
Yeah,
right.
I had this dream, And you know what? Whoa, it's got me thinking all day long, and it's got me hot, and it's making me want, right? Whatever that thing is for you, stay curious.
Yeah.
That is a very big tool. But here's an even bigger one. Stay curious, which is code for open-minded to what your partner might bring to you.
Mm.
Because one of the surest ways to shut your sex life down
Shutting your
is
partner
to
down.
shut your partner down. What? You
Yeah.
weirdo. Why are you thinking that? What? That ain't right.
Yeah.
Right? You're going to get a lot more information about what's going on with your partner if for just a few minutes you could at least be poker face and say, okay, I've heard what you said. I've heard what you want. Can you tell me why?
More. Yeah, right.
Why
Dig
do
further.
you want that? Can you tell me more? Can you tell me what that looks like? Right? It's all wrapped in a million shades of curiosity.
Did you ever have your practice anywhere else other than Salt Lake City?
Oh, so I've always been that go-to girlfriend since I was quite young. But I reside in Salt Lake City, so I have a private practice helping individuals and couples related to sex and intimacy. I have clients, however, across the world because I do video sessions.
Okay.
So if you're in Salt Lake and you want to come see me, and some people like that one-on-one,
Yeah.
I have an office. But if you're far away, I do video
You
sessions.
have a website, right?
Yeah.
And I'll include all that in the show notes as well. I guess I was kind of curious but yeah, that's just more the reason why I wanted to do this, because I want to kind of shed light on, I guess before it's always just about, to each their own. And I'm all for that, but at the same time, I'm also about someone's health and their quality of life and their psyche and how it plays a role into kind of how they live their life and enjoy their life. So,
well, let me just say to health, sex is as much about shame as it is pleasure. And
what do you mean by that?
Because, no one comes to their sexual 2018 prescriptively, right? Nobody has the same background. If a young child was exploring their body and happened to have their hands on their genitals and a caregiver came and said, whoa, what are you doing? Right there. They are shamed for touching that part of their body when just 5 minutes ago they were exploring their foot and that was A-okay, right? But this area of their body is now not okay. So my point is, no one comes to it prescriptively. It can be a caregiver, it can be sex abuse, it can be trauma of any nature, it can be cultural suppression, it can be pure out and out ignorance. I don't know what it is, but the individual knows. And when they are judging themselves against maybe what the media portrays as healthy sex life, these people are doing everything you're not. So there must be something wrong with you, right? There is a lot of sexual shame. Why am I not having multiple orgasms? Why am I not swinging from the rafters like Catwoman? Why am I not having sex 3 times, 9 times, 1 time a week like everybody else? Why am I not normal like everyone else? Can create a host of problems, and I just couch it in shame.
No, I thought that was great. I think we contrast things too much, and I love the contrast, but I think we need to bring them to harmony. And you're right. I mean, from a young age, it is always coached as like a taboo or a shameful thing, and then at least in my experience, it was like, all right, you're in your teens now, like be safe, right? It's kind of like the birds and the bees talk, right? Like, okay, like we get it. You're going to have some feelings now. You might get some, erections in class, whatever. And I just want to make sure that you make safe choices. And that's how it was like educated and portrayed. But there is a period of no education and just like a strict like no, and like
right?
Shame. So it's really interesting how you like. What was the exact word you used? Shame and pleasure, or shame and
I try to tell people, hey, because they come in saying, I'm not doing it right. I'm not having it right. I'm whatever their thing is. And they're always pointed to pleasure. Why isn't sex more pleasurable?
It's just
Why?
about shame and
Right.
pleasure. That's what
And
you
I
said, right?
want to say, hey, let's open the dialogue, right? Let's open your vocabulary. It's as much about shame as it is pleasure. Now, let's figure out, where are you at? And let's unwind the shame so that we can get to pleasure.
I love it.
Yeah, and you know what? I'll tell you, that just takes the heat off a whole lot of their bucket of pain, to say, yes, it's unwindable. Let's talk about that
Yeah.
and get into the road to the pleasure that you want.
Well, it's the duality. It's like I see it. I see this in exercise, in nutrition. I mean, you can't just have sunny days all day, all year long, right? We got to accept the rain, accept the snow, accept the bad with the good, and same thing with sex as well. It's like, you can't just look at it as like getting that pleasure all the time. You got to kind of accept kind of where your history was and how you viewed it, and kind of grow from that.
Right. And then the irony of it is, Matthew, I say it that way because it helps people embrace the range of sex. But moving forward, once a lot of those
the shame is addressed,
beliefs,
right?
The traumas are
and
unwound.
Can be dialed into the more pleasure side, right?
And we can play on the pleasure side the
Right.
whole rest of our life.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yep. And I see the parallels, seriously. Nutrition, exercise, same thing. It's like, no, we don't need you to like fast and eat this strict diet and work out, 5 hours a week every single day, but we got to get you to this position.
Yeah.
Once we get into this position, then you can, take a day off here and there, and you can have a cookie every now and then, and just enjoy your life and be more flexible with it. So I really appreciate that. That's a really good point. Shame and pleasure. That's a thinker right there. So let's see here. So my next question, and I think this is going to be a much more applicable answer for people, because I found that I was in this state for a little bit, and I find that the people I come in contact with may feel this same way. And maybe what are some things that you could talk about or touch on, maybe advice that you'd give to somebody or people who feel trapped or paralyzed at even opening up this line of communication with their spouse?
Thank you. I think it's hard, and I think that ability to open up a line of communication with your partner will always be an evolving skill set art. Okay.
Yeah.
But the truth is, you gotta start
somewhere.
And so I think the number one mistake, which also holds the answer to your question and the key to opening this very thing, but the number one mistake that people make is they do not adapt their sex life to their life. So what that means is this: when we're growing up, we may or may not be going to college. That may mean that we move. And when we move, we're going to have to adapt where we live. And then we get more skill sets. So then we might change our job. Then we're going to get more skill sets. So because we want more money. With more money, we're already adapting and buying more things. We naturally adapt all the time. But what I see is people will not adapt their sexual proclivities, their sexual behaviors, their sexual desires, their appetites. When two people, only one example, but the example is this: when two people come together and they get married or they come into a relationship, they quickly decide what is and is not allowed sexually, right?
And it's always after the marriage, right?
I would hope it would be before, but when they set that cornerstone, they don't move off it. Yeah, she don't like this, and I'm not asking that again. And he don't like that, and I'm never going to open that. And you know what? That is the very thing that sinks them as a couple, is they do not adapt their sex life to their life. The very busy couple who might have a baby, they need to develop their short game. Right? They need to develop the
quickies, right? Taking advantage of 5 minutes, 10 minutes.
Yeah,
right.
That's right. And they also need to develop the non-sexual touch because they get that in front of the babies.
Right.
But it's still connective, right? How about the people that are have time on their hands and they're getting a little bit bored with the same old thing, or they don't have time on their hands? It doesn't matter.
Right.
The person who wants novelty needs to be able to say, "Hey, babe, you know what? I'm thinking about this. Hey, babe, I would really like to do that." Adapting your sexual life to your life, which includes your interests, your desires, and your needs. How do you do that is the question. It gets tricky. I actually have a difficult conversation formula. I'm not trying to make you subscribe, but if you subscribe, it's one of the second or third email I think that comes out to you, and it's written out. But without any other skill other than the idea, armed with the idea
like a more growth mindset or adapting. Right?
Adapting. You can bring that up possibly, I would hope, tonight and say, I've been thinking. We've moved, we've changed job, we bought cars, we did this. And you know what else I'd like to change around? I'd like to change around the way we work it out in the bedroom. I'd like to change and do these things. I'd like to change and not do those things anymore. I'm tired of those things. What do you think about it? And when the partner, in case the partner goes off,
like gets defensive, you mean?
Or shut down, use the idea of your curiosity. We hit on that earlier. And just say, I don't understand. We absolutely have adapted to every other thing in our life. I wonder, why couldn't we change these things? Why should we not change them? What will it be like if we keep doing the same thing a decade from now? And leave the other person to think about it. At bare minimum, that's my idea. But I do think I spent a lot of time thinking about the difficult conversation formula.
Yeah, and that's a real thing.
I had a client.
That's anxiety producing just sometimes thinking about it.
Like, I know.
And
I have a really easy formula about it's ABCs. It's the ABCs of the difficult conversation formula. I made it where you could think about it. I had a client call me and say, we are up at the, what's that expensive hotel downtown? Grand America. We're at the Grand America in a suite, Carrie. Things weren't going so good, and I went in the bathroom, and I am on my phone trying to find your difficult conversation formula. But anyway,
it needs to be like a little cheat sheet.
They ended up having a great weekend. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. Hey, so I want to leave you with the idea of adaptability. It's big, and it's always overlooked. Difficult conversation formula in the clutch if you need to. I'm at seriously. I'm at can I give that? Yeah. www.drcarrie O'Neal ONEAL.com.
And I'm going to include all this stuff in the show notes so everybody can figure out how to get in touch with Dr. Carrie O'Neal. And I know she's very inviting to anyone who wants to write in any questions. And I'll include that email as well, if you're okay with that, in the show notes.
I would love it. You know what? For the science and health of sex, to this audience, if you have something on your mind, I would like to answer to you. If you write in and you leave a question, I'll answer every question. But I'm really interested in seeing what the patterns are of this audience so that we can address them.
We
Matthew.
can, right, and kind of dictate accordingly. I like it. So the last thing we're going to end with here, we're running on about an hour, is do you have any favorite quotes? I always ask people this, and I'm a big quote guy.
Yeah, I think for the things that we've talked about today, I think a great one would be, get what you want and need, or you will get what you want and need. That's an original quote by myself, but I'll tell you, that's really real. Get what you want and need from a place of awareness and ethics. Or believe me, especially when it comes to sexually related items and behaviors, you will get what you want and need in an unhealthy, unethical place of unawareness. And that will give you more problems than you needed in the first place.
Yeah. Love it. Love it.
I know, it's very zen. Get what you want and need, or you'll get what you want and need.
It's simple enough that get people to stop and think and realize, you know what? I got to make a change. Or if maybe you don't need to change your sex life. Maybe you're out there and you're like, I have a great, healthy sex life, and we're open and we communicate, and I'm happy for you. But I think for the most part, I think it's great to look internally, look inside, and assess, and just like how you're saying, adapt and grow and evolve, and just look how you've probably upgraded houses recently. You've probably got a new car recently. You probably looked better at the gym, right? You probably changed your diet. You know, what have you done to adapt your sex life and your sexual health in that manner? So I love it. Well, that wraps it up this month, and hopefully we will get to see Dr. Carey more.